Hello friends, it's Lisa and I'm back with a new video today. Today is all about watercoloring with Distress Oxide and overcoming fears because that's what I did today. Now, the very beginning of my footage where I stamp the scene is lost somewhere, somehow. I don't know what happened to it, but it's not there anymore. So I took some VersaFine and stamped all these images down, and I used my precision press by We Are Memory Keepers to do that. I didn't use any masking. I stamped everything all at once. I did stamp it twice, but otherwise I just stamped it, put the embossing powder over, embossed it, and that's where we are now. I will talk you through a little bit about why I put stamps where. Now, it seems counterintuitive, but actually the lighter mountains go in the back. So you'll see those that are just faint outlines. To me, it always seems like it should be the other way, where you should put the darkest in the back because that's how you shade things. But actually mountains, or things in the distance, look lighter than the things that are closer up. So that's why I put those two mountains in the back. And then you just base things on perspective. Like the bridge in that little house look bigger than the row of houses. So those need to be further in the foreground or lower on the page than the row of houses. So that's I just built my scene in that way. Now I'm doing the sentiment right now, and I actually ended up putting that inside the card because I really liked how the outside looked. It's very simple and elegant, but that kind of goes with the stamp set, right? I'm excited to use this again. I learned a lot and I had a lot of fun. It was a really simple, fast card, and I think whoever I send it to, which I haven't decided yet, will enjoy it. I decided to take the crane stamp and add it next to the sentiment, which off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly what it says, but we'll look at it later. I am traveling for work, so I'm not at home right now, but we're gonna keep on keeping on. So, I think it's may your life be filled with beauty and grace. I was right. So I'm stamping those stamps down with some VersaFine black onyx black ink. Then I'm going to sprinkle that with some clear embossing powder and heat that with a heat gun. You'll see my heat gun just in a second. It heats up super fast, so I let it sit for maybe 10 seconds. Usually right before I'm gonna put my powder on, embossing powder, I just flick it on, and by the time I clean up my embossing powder, it's ready to go. It's an industrial heat gun, so it heats up really fast and it gets really hot. And this is on low setting. If you put it on high setting, ooh, that baby gets hot, hot, hot. So next I'm gonna speed this up. So that was all at real time. This is at double speed. So while it's a really fast card, I did speed it up just so that I don't think it's as interesting to watch the watercolor as some other things. So I did want to speed that up and keep this to a relatively short amount of time. So you'll see those ink colors that I used, and I'm spraying the background with just a mist of water. I was using my all-time favorite water mister, which in card making is actually an important tool. You have the Tim Holtz Distress Sprayer, which is really good and I like it, but it does not give you a light misting. You get a lot of splotches, which really goes with his distress look, but sometimes you just need an all-over light misting of water, and that's when I go for my Master Touch spritzer, and it gives you just this very light sheen of water. And it can handle a lot of rough play because my niece comes over and she loves to clean, so she'll take that thing and just spray everything and wipe it down. Anyway, I haven't even talked about the watercolor. So I stamped the ink pads down on my glass mat. I spritzed them with water, and now I'm using my water brush and just grabbing them. And you'll see I'm using a big flat brush for this. I'm just trying to put color down. I'm not trying to be super detailed with it. I do end up doing 2 coats because I wanted deeper color, but I picked these very light colors in order to create that ink painting look that the stamp set really calls for. So I started at the bottom with mostly the green and a little bit of the blue in where there would be kind of the pool of water below the waterfall. Then I did the layer of gray, which off the top of my head I can't think of those color names. I believe the Shabby Shutters is the green, and the gray might be pumice stone, which is perfect because it has that little tint of purple, which really goes with the cloud bank that I was trying to create. I do think that I needed some darker colors to add a little bit more contrast, but I do like the overall feel of this card. So really what you can do is take these 4 colors, grab those same 4 colors in your regular distress ink to create the shadows. I think I'll have to try that because it would just give you the same color but a little bit darker, which would be perfect. You saw that I did the first layer with wet onto wet. So I sprayed the background with some water so that the paper was moist and there was just a fine sheen of water on top of the paper. It's important when I say that you understand that putting a quick wash of color over, if the paper is dry, then that will soak in and set really fast, which if you're trying to do wet onto wet technique is not going to work very well. You'll have it dry a lot quicker than you want to. So that's why I spray it with my spray mister and then also go over that paper with my paintbrush to make sure that it has a nice even coating of water. You don't want a ton of water, just enough to allow the paint to mix. Then after dropping in all those colors in the areas that I wanted, I heat dried that with my heat gun just to save time. You could let it air dry, but who wants to do that? Then I'm doing my second coat or second layer here where I didn't spray the background down. I didn't add any additional water. I'm not even adding a whole lot of water onto my brush. It's pretty dry, and I'm just adding that texture in using the flat brush, the horizontal look of it. So I'm just dabbing it on in that way, which creates some texture and some dimension and adds a lot to this card. And that's it for the watercoloring. I do watercolor that sentiment piece a little bit, and I'll show you that real quick, but all that is just a flat wash of color. So I'm taking the blue from the sky and then a little bit of the green and just dry brushing that onto the background. Oh, I guess I took a little bit of the other blue, which I can't think of the name of, and adding that in as well. Then heat drying that really quickly, and you don't want to get it so hot that you remelt the embossing powder. Just a little bit hot so that it dries the water. Then I'm going to die cut those both out. And that, I'm going to use the Simon Says Stamp stitched rectangles, and these are the ones that have a stitched edge on both the inside and the outside cut, which I really like. The one thing I am sad about is that it doesn't come in the full A2 size die, so I'm going to have to get that one so that I can cut out the full front size of the card. But I'm using the biggest one on this, and I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine, and then I'm going to use one of the smaller ones, which looks like the third to smallest, and cut out that sentiment section. I do use the tape, washi tape, to hold that down just so it doesn't shift. Now you can see here I'm realizing that it's not quite big enough to fit over the whole card, but I did think that it looked good on top of the white card. If I had gray, like the Simon Says Stamp fog cardstock, that's what I would have used as a card base. I think it would have been perfect, but I was kind of done at this point. I actually had to fly out the next morning, so I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time, and right now I'm just running over and cutting it with my long arm guillotine cutter just to get it squared up. Then I'm sticking that on the outside. Next, I decide that it's too much real estate to use that on the front, so I'm putting it on the inside, which also makes less space. I have to write a thank you note or whatever note I'm going to use it for. So here's a final look at the card. It was a lot of fun and super easy, and I'm glad that I got over my fear of using a stamp set because it turned out awesome. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a great day. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below. I have a new video coming up in just a couple days, so I hope to see you there. Bye.